Hello there. Thanks for watching. This footage has been really a challenge for me to get put together into an edited format. I've had this footage since June of 2023. So here we are in December, 1st of December, 2024. So I really want to get this out. Consider it sort of a winter warmer since it was filmed in a warmer part of the year. A little reminder of what it can be like. It's gone pretty cold in our part of the world here in Northern Ireland, where I'm sitting at the minute. Please enjoy the footage, and I hope to catch up on the rest of it fairly soon and bringing it up to date. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. All the best. So it's mid-June almost. It's the 13th and 2023. And I've got still just have the one beam up. I've got an area here where there's rot. And today I'm going to cut this chunk out, and I'm going to find a piece of wood in the yard here. It's a wooden boat yard, so there'll be lots of wood around. I can find something nice and clean and dry. And I'm going to scarf that in, epoxy it in place, and then wrap the entire beam with fiberglass and epoxy, and then paint that beam. And now there's a couple other areas that I need to fill. I've got a couple of little bolt holes that were in there that I want to drill out larger and fill with epoxy. And there are a couple things I'm removing to simplify the beam. So once that's painted, I can put it back in place. And I'm gonna go with a different system of resisting the lateral movement on this beam. So as discussed, this is the drawings from 1980, drawn by Henneke, 1980 copyright. This is some of the changes. So you can see there's no raised cabin roof, cockpit, or not cockpit, cabin roof there, over each of the cabins. The change included a raised area there and more of the springs, whereas in the past there was two on either side and then attached to the rooftop. Now it's four, and then you can see the piece of wood in there are the chocks that will keep it from moving back and forth. So that's the direction we're going to go with this, is this design. I believe that it's going to be the most sensible and easier to complete. Discussing the lateral movement on the beam, I've been talking about now for some time, trying to understand what's keeping these from being laterally moved. And there's no bolts here, and the risers were these rubber pads. So after talking to Henneke Boone, I'll be putting risers under above the gunnel on each side of each of the hulls, and that'll support the beam, as I've talked about. But instead of doing a bolt through, I've talked to some other Tehini owners, Don Henderson being one of them, who's based out of Fiji and lives on and sails his vessel regularly. Shout out to Don Henderson. He didn't like the idea of putting the bolt through the beam, the potential ingress of water, so on and so forth. So following that line of thought, one of the early changes that were made to the Tehini in 1980 was the idea of having wooden chocks. So there'd be two pieces of wood attached to the cabin roof, and then one piece attached to the beam, or vice versa. I've got to figure out which way is the best way to go. And that one will the big piece will sit inside the two side pieces, and then it can't move, but it can rise, and it can shift, but it can't go laterally back and forth. So that makes my job a lot easier, because I was creating these big chocks with bolt hole situations, and it was actually going to be a lot of work. Anyway, here I am in not so sunny West Cork, but very warm and very close. It's very, very humid here at the minute. Enjoy the video. In looking at a repair here, I've come across some rot, sadly. So it's not massive, but a couple centimeters wide at the widest, and what is that, about 5 centimeters deep. So I'll probably try and clean that up a little bit more and get a nice piece of wood that I can shape it all a little more square, and fill that with a nice piece of wood and epoxy. Got that piece nicely shaped out. I'm not going to worry about it being perfect. I'm going to use some fillers to make up the difference. So what I'm going to do now is go and see if I can find a piece of wood that'll suit that hole that I've just made. So that's the beam minus a lot of rot. This is a pretty damn hefty beam, and my feeling is that even if I didn't repair this, it'd probably be strong enough. Of course, I'm not going to do that, but there's a serious amount of strength in that. It's actually, I think it's really good. This boat feels that those beams are not underbuilt, that's for sure. They're built to a very high stressing level, which tells me very, very safe for blue water, deep water cruising, deep water passages. So impressive strength. So I'm gonna go find some wood. So thanks to Liam and the boatyard, I've got a perfect piece of Douglas fir here that is almost exactly the height of what I cut out. So I just need to cut it down, and I'll have myself the piece that I need to scarf in. How lucky was that, huh? A freebie. Gotta love that, huh? So I'm just checking the thickness there. How perfect is that? It's just right. I can thin that down using the planer once I've got it down to the correct size. was saying, I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking for a really good, solid fit. It's not super snug, but I've got fillers I'm going to work with. And now I'll take the planer and fit it to place. But first of all, I'm going to make up some epoxy. I'm going to countersink in some screws and set this in place, glue it up, and then once it's set, I'll then take the planer to it and clean it all up, to then do a final sheath of epoxy. what's happened here is that this sometimes this happens with this stuff. It's had a chemical reaction and it's just gone off really. It's gotten super hot and hardened up very quickly. So I'm unfortunately not going to be able to use the rest of it. I'll have to make a new batch. But I got one side done, and a bit of fillers in on this one here. I've managed to get everything in place that I wanted. So I've got my riser on the starboard side here and starboard side there. This is on either side of the starboard hull. So this will be at either end of the beam where it's supported. And then I've got my placers or lateral support braces there. Now they may be a little bit thick, but I can use my planer to knock them down and a little if need be. So I am going to have to set the beam in place to see how this works and then raise it back out again, which should be okay. I'll get a little help with that. So that's the starboard side, and here's the port side. So port side riser, port and starboard of the port hull, and then the lateral support. And then I've done my glassing of this scarfed piece, so I'm pretty pleased with the progress thus far. That's it on both sides of the beam. I'm pretty happy with that. I think it'll be perfect for what this is. Here's hoping. And time to do a little bit of cleanup and then do a swim. Now that's fun and that's nice. Even here in the boatyard at high tide, it works. It works. A nice cool down. So there we go. I've got that first beam in place thanks to the help of Pierre, our nice Frenchman who works in the boatyard here. They're sitting down on the bolts, over the bolts as they should, and on the rubber pad, so I'm really thrilled. So gone is the rubber pads underneath. So if we look under here where the pads used to be, there's a nice gap there for water and everything to flow. And down at the far end, it's on the pad again. And then here's here we are for our lateral support. So if I need to put more wedging in there, I will. I might put a piece of rubber or something, but and I think I'm going to be bolting it more on this side, so that might bring it in just a tad closer. But as it stands, I'm really pleased. We've got nice support there laterally, so these pieces can't shove too hard port or starboard. There it is in place. Down to the other side. Looking good, sitting on the pads. Really, really pleased about that. So she's sitting very nicely on that. We went to put the beams in, and I almost forgot the rubber pads on the resting plates. So it wouldn't have been the end of the world, because I could have lifted them up and slid them in, but I wanted to put a screw through the top of them. So Pierre came over to help, and then I realized that, so we quickly cut them out with the jigsaw, and I ran a screw through the top and sunk it well into the rubber. So it's not possible, I don't think, for the beam to ever come near that piece of metal that is the screw tip. So, but it's holding those from moving around, jostling around. So really pleased. That's one beam. So I'm 1/4 of the way through that repair system, that process, and I'm just going to paint the top of this beam here now before I go, and then I'm away for the day to listen to some more of that music that you heard in one of our videos. I'll probably be using it regularly, but these lovely concert of doctors, European Doctors Orchestra. So I'll maybe put them in, slip them into the video, and you can see who they are. But it's a pretty cool little thing happening out on the island where we are, Hare Island. So I've managed to complete this beam. It's in place. I've painted underneath it. It's sitting very nicely on its chocks. There it is, complete. That is an epic milestone. I'm really pleased to have done one of these. Is really great. Now, the next one is going to be a little bit trickier because it's full of that massive mast step, but that's the one that's most essential because I have cracks over my cabin here and possibly on this side, and it makes sense because this is the part where the mast was sitting. This is the main mast was sitting on that, so it was the most pressure was on that side. So we're going to get that repaired and get that one sorted, so that'll be the next one to go after right there. It'd be nice to have that one done as well, but hey, you know what? I got one done. I'm pretty stoked. So slowly but surely, we're chipping away at this. And that'll be me for this episode, signing off. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video. Appreciate that. And share with anybody you'd like that might be interested in learning about Wharrams. Huge sense of accomplishment on this end to have gotten that one beam sorted, and now I know what I'm dealing with for the rest of the vessel, so great feeling. Thanks for watching. Chat later. Thank you.